Well, happy Christmas. Welcome to RAILstuff, the place of blankness right now. This is a really quick video because I wanted you guys to know that it's now the start of something new. The £100 layout, as you know, didn't get completely finished and is still, a project to be finished at some point. But one of the things I really wanted to do was find an opportunity to start building a layout for myself. Some of you have seen in the past that I've got this little N-gauge East Midlands class 158 sat ready to go, runs really nicely. And I've also talked about other ideas that I've got and thoughts that I've had around building a layout before. And I'm not really any further with exactly those kind of plans, except I am now firm that I am going to build an N-gauge layout. So much so, I've been and bought the wood and I've created this. It's fairly basic, but it's very sturdy. So just underneath there, you can see I've put some wooden batten underneath just to provide strength, and also the table that's underneath that the £100 layout sat on is quite shallow. So I've bought a board that is 2 foot in depth, which is a little bit deeper than the tables it's going to sit on. And then I've put the batten towards the back of this frame. You probably can't see there. Let me just drop that down a bit so you can see the overhang from the batten there, which may need a little strengthening at some point, but really I wanted to just create the battening that is going to sit it on the table. So I did that, just some simple strips of wood and a bit of wood glue and a few screws in there, and that's all nicely fixed to what is a 6x2 board. I'm trying to remember how thick it is. I think I've covered up the sticker, but it's quite thick and sturdy, and that board, as I say, is exactly 6x2 if we're talking in feet. 1,830 millimeters, I think, if you want to know millimeter wise, and that will allow me to do something on here. It's a lot bigger than the £100 layout was, but I then get into some of my personal challenges with ideas, and that is because ideally I want something that can pretty much run by itself. I sit and work over that direction, and it would be nice to have a layout that can run whilst I'm working. But that really requires either a lot of automation or a roundy. And a roundy on here isn't a lot and doesn't fill me full of joy. But again, at the same time, there's not a lot of space for any length as such. One thought may be, and I can't show you this right now because it's way too messy, but behind the camera, just over here, sort of where this mess starts, is another table that is my workbench. So you've seen it before in past videos. That's my workbench that is, I don't know, that must be 5 foot long at a guess. And then to the side of that, there's a shelf at the same height that is part of a racking unit that is the same depth as the boards underneath here. And that is about 90 centimetres. So what's that? That's just under 3 foot. One of the thoughts I've got is that board at the far end on the shelving unit could become a loop area, so where it loops back on itself, or some kind of fiddle yard if I wanted to go down that route of more of a shunting layout, for example. that then I could just run a single track along the back of my workbench. So it doesn't get in the way of the workbench. In fact, it becomes quite a nice thing to have a train run up and down the workbench from time to time. It would need to be something that I could easily cover over though, because of the airbrushing I do and bits and pieces like that. But then that could create a longer run down onto this board where I can do something more scene related. Obviously there's going to be some scenics on here, but I also want a bit of an urban scene as well. So whether that means station or TMD or both, I don't know. One of the thoughts I got was maybe the track could come along the back here, do a loop here, because a tight radius loop will fit there. Obviously I'd then have to be careful about what runs on it, but I could get a curve on there and then cover the curve up with something, so that from this point of view all you see is the train go underneath and the train pop back out, and then you could have a station that kind of sprawls across this centre section here, and that actually joins back onto the back loop here, and then maybe this area here for a scrapyard or a TMD or something. And this is the joy of N gauges, that actually there will be some space for all of that kind of stuff. It creates its own problems, but it's all part of the thought process right now. And what that would do effectively is, if you've got a line down here that loops around, comes back, rejoins the back line, goes off over there, down to the shelf at the back end of the garage, loops back around and comes back, then it's kind of a loopable, roundy kind of effort. There's points involved in that you know, I'll have to get some expert help on how to solve all of that conundrum, but that's a possibility. But for now, what I can say is welcome to my layout. It hasn't got a name yet, it hasn't got a theme yet, it hasn't got an idea yet, and that's what I need to start thinking about over the Christmas period, is what is this going to be? But I like having to think about things like that. I have done some shopping though, so let me show you what I've got. So those of you that have listened to episode 1 of season 2 of the Junctions and Stuff podcast will know that Richard and I, after recording, were going to TTC in Derby. And at TTC, I bought 3 lengths of Code 80 Pico N-Gauge Flexi Track. Now that goes with, bear with me, that goes nicely with the 2 lengths that I bought possibly last year sometime, which I think I got from Thunderbolt Models when they were at a show in Stoke. So we've got that, and then also a couple of years ago at a show, someone very randomly gifted me a bunch of Pico N-Gauge track. So there's some curves in there, but more importantly, we've got all kinds of points here. So I've got some stuff to get going with there. That stuff is all going to need cleaning up, bit of track magic on there to sort of bring it back to life. But that's not it for track, because whilst I was at TTC, I also picked up a pack of ST3012 number 1 radius double curve. So yeah, I've got, how many's in that? There's 4. So there's 4 in there. And then also I picked up 3 packs of fish plates as well. It won't be enough, but it's enough to get me started with. So I've got some track, I've got a board, I've got some general ideas, but nothing too fixed. I probably now need to spend some time really thinking about what I'm going to do. But I invite you along on the journey. There may not be regular updates. This may be something that I come to here and then when I get the chance to. It may be something that I do on a regular basis. I don't know yet. This is a pet project. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I've never had a desire for building Engage. I don't have the space for anything else. So I'm getting my head into Engage. I'm getting my head into what I can create in the space. But ideas are welcome. Maybe I'll put together a little plan of the space that I've got and the ideas that I've got so far, so that you can input your ideas. In fact, I'll post something in the RAILstuff community. It's a RAILstuff group on Facebook. So feel free to come and join us there, so you can give us your input as well. But yeah, there we go. I'm building a layout. It needs a theme, it needs a plan, it needs a name, but I'm building a layout.